No, I'm not one of I just spoke to, and that's when I referenced the. And so we're doing things that like tracks. Read, you know? Because I'll tell you, I get thinking a day, you probably get 100 a day, and you can't out there with you know, but every now and then there's some people doing it. Today, they're trying to just policy the guidance. So, and you know, for us, you know, in the. So I told you that they're regular work. Okay, very good. Yeah.
Spit on me.
Happy St. Patrick's Day. Somebody gave that.
Is it Edie?
I don't know.
Michael.
How are the kids when they shut it?
Mark.
Good evening. Welcome to the meeting of the Skokie Village Board for Monday, March the 16th, 2020. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, if you would join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A couple of items I would like to note before the meeting, before the roll call. Trustee Sutker is joining us via electronic media.
Is that her?
Because of the nature of her job, she thought it best that she not attend the meeting. Should not be construed that she's ill or that she has the virus that we're all concerned about. It was just out of caution. So I think, Nick, you have her on
Yes.
Zoom, correct? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Secondly, the proclamation honoring Margie's Flowers will not be up this evening. And before the meeting at 7 o'clock, our new hire firefighter was sworn in, Chairman of the Board of Fire and Police Commissioners. Chairman Evans swore our new hire in. And I'm just checking to see if everybody's got 6 feet between them. Welcome, everybody, and the clerk will please call the roll.
Trustee Roberts.
Here.
Trustee Ulrich.
Here.
Trustee Bromberg.
Here.
Trustee Klein.
Over here?
Yeah, I'm looking. Trustee Gray Keeler.
Here.
Mayor Van Dusen.
Here. The meeting has a quorum, and as I mentioned, Trustee Sutker is by electronic media. Next item on the agenda is a presentation on the 2020 census. Our planning supervisor, Steve Marciani, will make the presentation. Steve?
Do you want consent agenda?
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me, Steve. I checked it off and didn't call the motion. Excuse me. Motion to accept to approve this evening's consent agenda, Trustee Gray Keeler, seconded by Trustee Roberts. Is there anything on the consent agenda anybody would like to have removed? If not, call the roll, please.
Trustee Roberts.
Aye.
Trustee Ulrich.
Aye.
Trustee Bromberg.
Aye.
Trustee Klein.
Aye.
Trustee Gray Keeler,
Aye.
Mayor Van Dusen.
Aye, the motion passes. The aforementioned Steve Marciani.
Thank you, Mayor. Of course. So as you know, the census is now underway, and I apologize for this technical glitch right at the very beginning. There we go. Well, we'll get to it eventually. So the census has already been mailed out, and there's going to be supposed to be a video right here talking to you about the census, and I don't know why it's not working, because I had it all set up before I came. We'll just do this instead. Okay, moving on. Except the computer's locked. So I will talk to you instead, off the cuff. So the census forms have started arriving in mailboxes in the village of Skokie. They started getting mailed out on the 12th, and they will continue to be mailed out until the 20th. There are invitations to respond online or on the telephone. We've already had people come into Village Hall or call us to get assistance to fill out those forms, and many people have already started replying on their own. Yeah, Nick, if you can kind of work on that. So the Census Day officially is the 1st of April. And our goal is to get everybody to reply online. And I'll take one more pause.
You showing that flash drive?
No, it's down on the bottom, census presentation. We'll just start it. All right. Skip that because I don't know what's going on. Okay. So the households will get multiple reminders to reply. I have already been heard from some people in Skokie that they have already gotten their second reminder. They will get 4 reminders before they actually get the paper copy in the mail, but our goal is to get everyone to respond before Census Day. If you do not reply to the census, starting in the beginning of May, official census enumerators will start arriving at the households of the non-respondents. And again, we want to make sure that people respond on their own, and then there will be no need for anyone to visit the home. Just want to remind everyone that there's no citizenship question on the 2020 census questionnaire, and there's also no exchange of any personal data with anyone else. And the video explained all that. So if you go to 2020census.gov, they've got a bunch of videos that explain the census. But it's safe, everything is secure, the information is not secure, shared with any other agency or with us for 72 years. So the census is important to us because from the constitutional standpoint, it's how we draw our legislative boundaries for the federal government. Our state uses that same census to draw our own legislative boundaries. It's also ways for us to attract new business and to allocate money to us in many, many different ways that are apportioned based off our population, such as our reimbursement for state income tax, or reimbursement for state motor fuel tax, or in formula grants that we get like Community Development Block Grant. It's used to forecast our transportation needs, and importantly, the number of kids that are going to be starting this school, because we don't know who's in school until they're in school. So the 0 to 5s are really important to us, and planning for the services that we provide. Let's skip the rest of this for now. So the goal is to count everyone once, only once, and in the right place, and to increase awareness about the importance of the census village-wide. And again, we want 100% response. Last time we got 77%, which was good. We want to do better this time around. And then we're focusing this time on our outreach efforts on historically hard to count populations that are specific to us. And when we looked at our data, we found out that the largest groups that did not respond last time were actually renters, people of lower incomes, and young children 0 to 5. And included in that, we're also going to be helping out senior citizens, try to outreach to millennials, but the Census Bureau is doing a lot of that on their own with a different type of marketing campaign, as well as ethnic minorities and non-English speakers. But again, the goal is to get everyone to self-report. So who counts? It's everyone living or sleeping at your home most of the time on April 1st. That's everyone that's under your roof. We want to make sure that if you have a vacation or another home, that if you're here most of the time, you count in Skokie. You don't count at the place where you're at part of the time. Citizens of foreign countries who are living in the United States for work or other reasons, that includes people who are here on temporary work visas. But wherever you are, if you're in the United States at this time, you get counted in the United States. Again, all children living in your home, and I can't emphasize this enough, so I'm going to read all the types of kids that count. That's foster children, your own children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, children of friends, even if they're living with you only temporarily, children who split their time between more than one home. If they're there with you on April 1st, they count where they are on April 1st. So that's important too. And newborn babies, even if they're not home yet, they get counted at your place of the residence of their parent. Boarding school students at below the college level get counted here. If you have college students living at home, they get counted here. Any foreign students get counted where they are on April 1st. So this is super important to us, and the data that we're getting from this is not just the official count, but it's the basis that we use for the other data that the American Community Survey collects, like on income and other things like that, that goes to a lot of our social service programs. And without this base number being right, all of our projections moving forward are going to be off for the next decade. So it's really important for everyone to get counted the first time in the decennial census. And we're looking to our trusted leaders in the community to encourage their neighbors, their friends, their clients, members of congregations to respond to the census, because sometimes different people react different. Our school superintendents, a few of them have been super cooperative. Letters went out from the school district superintendents to different school populations, and they've sent them out in multiple languages also. I'm going to stop there because I know we're short on time. Does anyone have any questions?
Do you want to tell everybody about the signs?
Yes.
The yard signs?
And that was the last line in here. We have great signs to go in people's yards. We haven't done the official rollout on this yet because we're waiting till the election's over. Some of you have these already. We want to get them distributed throughout the village, especially in multifamily areas. We have done outreach to 2,407 known landlords. They got letters from the village to encourage their tenants. We sent letters out to 4,870 people who are known renters to encourage them to respond. So we're really trying to get the message across. I've met with the clergy forum. I've met with most of the school superintendents. We've reached out to the food pantry to help get the message out. Anything else?
Yes.
With all the languages spoken in Skokie, are they sent out just in English? Or
Sure. So online, when you respond online, you have a choice of 13 different languages, and they're across the top. So there's a globe in the upper right-hand corner. If you click that, you could choose a language. There are language guides in 65 different languages, where you have the English on one side and the translation on the other, so you can match up the form to the questions translated. Those are available online also. And there are videos in those same languages verbally explaining the census to those particular communities. We gave language resources. I was at the Filipino kickoff event for their Complete Count Committee, and I provided them translation materials and video materials in Tagalog, for instance. So, yeah. And I know the ELL Center is working with the library and with the school districts to help with the parents. And again, District 69 sent letters out to people who are known to speak Urdu, Arabic, and Spanish, as well as the English letter that went to everybody else.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, if somebody wants to get a sign, how would they go
Sure,
about
yeah,
it?
so we have to keep track of where they all are. So they just need to contact the Community Development Department, and then every couple of days we'll be sending out runs and we'll be putting them in people's yards. And we'd like them to stay there at least to the end of May.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is report of our village manager, John Lockerbie.
Thank you, Mayor Van Duzen, and good evening, everyone. Item A is regarding a presentation for the COVID-19 and a declaration of emergency affecting public health resolution. As Dr. Kennard is approaching the podium, I'm going to give some introductory remarks. On March 11th, 2020, the World Health Organization declared the COVID-19 disease outbreak a worldwide global pandemic, and the federal, state, and county levels of government have also issued a similar disaster proclamation. At this time, the virus is spreading in communities in the Chicago area. The goal of the ongoing U.S. public health response is to detect new cases quickly and limit community spread. The declaration is designed to provide regulatory flexibility and access to resources. Dr. Kennard, our Director of Health for the Village of Skokie, will provide a presentation this evening. And after the presentation, I respectfully request Mayor and Board approval of the resolution declaring an emergency affecting the public health due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus in the state of Illinois for the village of Skokie.
Dr. Kennard.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Van Duzen, Skokie Board of Trustees. I want to first thank you for your consistent, strong support of the Health Department, especially during these unusual situations, such as the 2009 H1N1 influenza pandemic and now the novel coronavirus that we're facing today. The rapid global spread of this disease is unprecedented and is cause for grave concern. But I want to mention how impressed I've been with our willingness to pull together to respond to the pandemic and limit its spread here in Skokie, in Illinois, and nationally. I just wanted to mention a little bit, as John did, of what the public health response is to a pandemic, any pandemic and this pandemic. Our first priority is to detect the disease in the community and then prevent spread. And so we've been devoting a considerable amount of time identifying people who may have been exposed to the virus and may become ill, making sure they're put in quarantine where they're away from others until we're sure they're not ill, and also identifying individuals who are ill and then making sure they get the care that they need, as well as that they do not spread the disease to others in the community. Secondly, surveillance and epidemiology to understand the disease. Who's being infected? How are they being infected? Ages, length of infectivity, lethality. Those are all questions that are being explored right now in the public health community. And we are trying to provide accurate information to the public and to our partners. As you know, as you're well aware, this situation is rapidly evolving and the information is changing daily. We are part of, I will say, Skokie has had a health department since 1907. We've had a state-certified health department since 1968. We're one of only 7 municipalities in Illinois that has a state-certified health department. But we're part of the global network of public health. So we are actually, the CDC has responsibility nationally. They delegate responsibility to the state. And then the state in Illinois has delegated its responsibility for the response to local health departments like the Village of Skokie. We are collaborating with Chicago, with Cook County, with all of the other neighboring health departments, all the way up to the Illinois Department of Public Health and the CDC nationally, to make sure that we are giving unified messages and we're using a unified approach to our response to this threat. Every day we're getting updates from the Illinois Department of Public Health and the CDC, not only the situation, but a large number of guidances. For example, to help protect our most vulnerable citizens, those who live in long-term care facilities. Last week, we met with all 6 long-term care facility administrators and directors of nursing and carefully went through, with our fire department as well, all of the guidance and recommendations for how we want to protect those individuals. That's just one example. Here's all the groups we've been meeting with and talking to. Businesses, now that there's new guidance for restaurants, we sent out communication across to all the restaurants today. I've had some communication with Mr. Miles as well separately, but I will get to that later in the presentation. Entertainment venues, child care centers. We had a meeting here with all of the child care centers. Naturally, they're very concerned. Many, many conversations with superintendents of the public and private schools. Both here and at other locations. Skokie Public Library, we had many communications with them. Our elected officials have also met with Niles Township Clergy Forum. Some individuals in the community that were initially exposed attended the APAC meeting in Washington, D.C., which caused significant concern in the Jewish community. And so we have been working very closely, and I have to commend Sue Reesberg. She was on a call with many, many rabbis and other leaders in the Jewish community earlier last week to talk about how to respond to potential threats in that community. Healthcare facilities. North Shore University Health System is another group that we've been working with. Doctors in the community who are contacting us about people who they think may have been exposed and who are ill. Other faith-based organizations. I met with the Niles Township Clergy Forum with Beth Lindley. Niles Township Government and the Food Pantry. We have a major effort underway to make sure that food will be available to people in need, and especially collaborating with all the schools, that with the school closure that has happened, that we get make sure that children who are on free and reduced lunch still get fed. And so that's something the food pantry, I mean, we met, John and I, with our other Niles Township government leaders, and actually Ralph Serwinski, who you know very well, in Morton Grove, offered to have a separate location open in Morton Grove for the large supply of food that we're getting. Clearly, Skokie cannot be responsible for Niles Township alone, but we are very strong partners, and we're going to make sure that everyone in the region is doing well. Oakton Community College, I've been working very closely with that in university, and they've had some students who've become ill, and we had to sort out what were the risks to others on the campus. The Skokie Park District I've been meeting with. As I mentioned, long-term care facilities, other senior service agencies, because we do want to make sure that our most vulnerable citizens are protected. It's an effort that's taking all of us working together. I did want to just say a couple of words about COVID-19. I'm sure you've heard this over and over, but I think it's worth repeating. It's a new novel coronavirus that hasn't been seen before, so none of us have immunity. And that's what's so concerning. It's likely to spread through coughs and sneezes. We believe the incubation period is 2 to 14 days. I've had a lot of questions about whether or not if people don't have symptoms, are they infectious? We really don't believe there's a lot of spread of disease from people who aren't having symptoms, because you can imagine when you're coughing and sneezing, that's when you're just having droplets and potentially spreading the illness. So that's not something that we would test people for or that we would be extremely concerned about, are people who might be without symptoms around in the community. Healthcare providers and family and friends in close contact have the highest risk of getting ill. We know the illness can range from mild to severe, and really the symptoms are fever, cough, and shortness of breath. Just on a little bit of a lighter note, we did hear a week or two ago from the Illinois Department of Public Health that only having a runny nose was not considered the indicative of this disease, which was a great relief to the child care providers, because they said, all the kids have a runny nose. How am I supposed to tell whether or not they're ill? Severe illness is more likely to occur in people with underlying health issues, and we still don't fully understand the complete picture. So more information will be provided as soon as it is available. This is the status of the United States as of today. The CDC updates their map every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So as of today, there have been 3,487 cases and 68 deaths reported in the United States. In every state, West Virginia has not reported any, but otherwise it's in every state, Guam, Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and the District of Columbia. We have significant concern that the number of cases could increase substantially over the next 15 days, overwhelming healthcare resources as has occurred in other countries. 2 weeks ago, Italy only had 1,700 cases and reported 34 deaths. Now Italy is reporting an estimated 25,000 cases and more than 1,800 deaths. And I'm sure you have seen, as well as I have, the news reports of everyone taking social distancing measures. In Illinois, it was reported today that the governor is having daily press conferences. We are at 105 cases and 14 counties. The cases have occurred in all age ranges. there is an increasing number of cases without travel or contact with a known person who has the disease. And that's the situation for the one identified Skokie case, who is a man in his 80s. We anticipate that there will be more cases in Skokie because there is now evidence that there is some transmission occurring in the community, not just in our Skokie community, but in the Chicagoland area. This is why the governor is implementing the drastic measures that he has put into place, because what we're seeing is an exponential increase in the number of cases. That's why today he issued Executive Order 2020-07 stating that the number of cases in Illinois is increasing exponentially and across more locations, indicating that drastic social distancing measures are needed, even in communities where confirmed cases have not yet been identified, to reduce the number of people who become sick and the possibility of exhausting our health care resources. I'm sure many of you have seen this CDC curve about flattening the curve and reducing the burden on communities. I don't know if this, if I can get this, yeah, here we go. Okay, this is just standard public health. We know these measures will work. If we take these measures, which means staying away from others who are sick, staying home if you're sick, washing your hands, and covering your cough, they'll make a big difference. This data was from the 1918 pandemic, but it is also applicable to more recent diseases like the SARS outbreak in Toronto. The SARS outbreak in Toronto was only contained by the measures that we're talking about implementing right now. So when we talk about quarantine, they had 19,000 people in quarantine, 7,000 on one day in Toronto, and only one person objected. So I have to say, in general, people are very compliant with these recommendations. But back in 19, we were at war, and there was some hesitancy on the part of our government, federal government, to acknowledge what was occurring with the spread of the flu that killed so many people because we didn't want to look weak. And so some communities did not take the steps that were recommended by public health, which were to close schools and close, entertainment venues, not have the religious services and so forth, the things that we're talking about, no big gatherings in support of the war. This on the left is Philadelphia. They are reported to have run out of caskets. Not that I'm thinking that's what's going to happen to us now, but they had a very quick, dramatic, huge increase in number of cases. Unlike St. Louis that implemented the measures, the same measures we're talking about right now to keep people away from each other, they slowed the spread of the disease. And so they had a much more controlled response. That's what we're aiming for right now. This came out today, and just to show that we're speaking with a unified voice, this is from the CDC, but our president did put this out, and I love these two slides. We can make a difference in the next 15 days if we just follow these guidelines, which are very basic. I like how he said follow your state and local authorities. That was good for me. If you're sick, stay home. Don't go to work. Contact your medical provider. If your children are sick, keep them home. Don't send them to school. If someone in your household is positive for the coronavirus, keep the entire household at home. Don't go to work. Don't go to school. If you're an older person, stay home and away from other people. Or if you're a person with a serious underlying health condition that can put you at increased risk, for example, a condition that impairs your lung or heart function or weakens your immune system, stay home and away from other people. And again, we're not thinking this is going to be for a very extended period of time. If we look at other countries, after 2 months in China, when they implemented these measures, the number of cases have dropped off dramatically. This also, do your part. I don't think you can read it, so I will read it to you. Even if you're young or otherwise healthy, you are at risk and your activities can increase the risk for others. It is critical that you do your part to slow the spread of the coronavirus. Work or engage in schooling from home if you can. If you work in a critical infrastructure industry as defined by the Department of Homeland Security, such as healthcare services, pharmaceutical, and food supply, you have a special responsibility to maintain your schedule. Avoid social gatherings. CDC had been saying 50. We've gotten lots of questions about that. Today it came out more than 10. Avoid eating or drinking at bars, restaurants, and food courts. Not that we think that those places are places that are going to, because of their practices, transmit the disease, but it's just because of the close social contact that you're in. Use drive-through, pickup, or delivery options. Avoid discretionary travel, shopping, social visits. Do not visit nursing homes or retirement or long-term care facilities unless to provide critical assistance. And last week, actually, all the long-term care facilities and now our hospitals as well have implemented very strict restrictions on who can come into the buildings, just to prevent the spread of disease. And again, practice good hygiene. Wash your hands. We've all heard happy birthday, sing that twice. Especially after touching any frequently used item or surface. Avoid touching your face. I think we all can acknowledge that is very hard to do. Sneeze or cough into a tissue or the inside of your elbow, and disinfect frequently used items and surfaces as much as possible. These are important steps to take, which we can all take together, and that will limit the spread of COVID-19 and its negative impact in Skokie and beyond. This is a really big deal, but the steps we take now can make a huge difference. And then I wanted to just give you how to get information. We are updating our website every day. You can call us at the Health Department, 847-933-8252. I'd encourage people to sign up for Skokie e-News because we are sending out e-news blasts about what's happening in the community too. The Illinois Department of Public Health has a 24-hour-a-day hotline, and it's actually being run by the Illinois Poison Control Center, so they're used to answering these kinds of questions. So you can call that 1-800-889-3931 or email the Illinois Department of Public Health at dph.sic@illinois.gov. So I think with that will conclude my presentation. And again, I so appreciate all of you and all the support that you are giving the health department, as well as everyone else in the village, the police, fire, public works. Ann Tennis, who's not here, has been terrific with all of her information sharing and website updates. Mayor, you look like you want to say something.
I wanted to thank you and ask the board if anybody had any questions.
Trustee Bromberg?
Trustee Bromberg.
Kevin, I need a question about the health clubs. Are they going to remain open, or, because I heard that they were.
I've talked with John, and we have been hesitant to get ahead of what other, like the governor and so forth, are recommending. I do know that Bruce Jones, our environmental health supervisor, was reaching out today to the corporate offices of the larger facilities, because I agree with you. And I don't know if you have a thought on that, John.
Lifetime is already officially closed. Yeah. Lifetime is officially closed, and my understanding is that two of the others are about to announce the same thing, and the governor has indicated that he wants them closed.
Yeah, and I think the Park District is closed.
Our Park District is closed, yes.
I think it wasn't Lifetime, I think it was like a smaller one.
What?
Like Orange Fitness?
Yeah.
One of those?
Yeah.
You're saying that was open?
Yes.
We'll check.
We will follow up on that, because that's certainly a good point.
There is before the, I'm
Sure,
sorry.
absolutely.
There is before the board a resolution declaring an emergency affecting the public health due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus in the state of Illinois. A motion would be in order. Trustee Gray Keeler, seconded by Trustee Roberts. I would like to make a statement regarding the resolution. It will be online, so everybody will understand what it is we're doing. I want to thank John, Dr. Kennard, the entire village staff, and the entire health staff. These are extraordinary times. We have all come to understand that day by day health events are impacting our lives and that these events are not predictable. This morning when I woke up, it was one thing. This afternoon, it was a whole other thing. Therefore, the village is responding and planning for events as we know them today, and events that may evolve in the days ahead. In the village of Skokie, we're committed to maintaining vital operations as much as possible, and we will at all costs provide resources, support, and services to our residents and to our businesses. For this reason, we are acting tonight to provide the authority to maintain municipal operations and finances so that our resources, support, and services will be available. The emergency ordinance before us tonight is contemplated under Illinois state statute and our village code. It was carefully written by the state and by the village for just these circumstances and will be used cautiously. Pursuant to Section 810-5 of the Illinois Municipal Code, 65 ILCS 5-8-10-5, a village board may declare an emergency when the public health or safety is affected pursuant to a majority vote of its members. Pursuant to our own village code, as permitted by state statute, the mayor and board of trustees may declare an emergency, authorize and adjust Skokie's financial processes and governmental operations to place the village in a position to effectively combat any risk to public health and safety, and to provide emergency assistance to residents and businesses. In both cases, we are doing so tonight as a precaution. Pursuant to Sections 2-295, 2-967, 2-969, 2-1013, and 2-1018 of the Village Code, we are passing the emergency ordinance tonight to assure our village functions, even in the unlikely event that the village board is unable to hold its next regularly scheduled meeting, or that financial, operational, or public health action is needed before the next board meeting. We have every expectation that we will be holding our next board meeting as scheduled. However, this afternoon, Governor Pritzker did issue an executive order temporarily suspending the Open Meetings Act to permit municipalities to conduct board business via electronic media. We are now investigating the executive order, and we will seek to comply with the governor's requirements as laid out in his executive order. Does anybody on the village board have any comment on the resolution before us? Trustee Sutker, do you have any comment?
I would just like to say that under the state statute, I'm not allowed to vote on the resolution tonight, but I want to express my full support towards the resolution.
Thank you. Trustee Roberts.
Mayor, I just want to reassure residents who might be listening on cable tonight, when people hear the word emergency, somehow it jumps in their mind as something maybe alarming, but I think many villages, if I'm stand corrected, villages all over Illinois are passing similar. I know Cook County is. It's just a way for us to be able to be very nimble and act quickly, to give the village manager and staff the appropriate authority to act quickly, to make purchases, sign contracts, whatever So I just like to re-echo, I guess, what you're saying. And also, I think Dr. Kennard's maybe a little bit too humble. I think we're lucky and blessed to have you.
Thank you, trustee.
So I'd like you to just share a little bit about your background and why you're prepared to take on this job today.
Okay. Well, I am a physician, and I was trained by the United States Navy, and I was a naval officer for 7 years. Was a lieutenant commander. My husband always jokes, he calls me commander. But then getting out of that, I was trained as a family physician. And when I came back to Illinois, my husband's from Chicago, and we always joke there's nowhere else to live if you're from Chicago, or Skokie, right? But he wanted to live back in the area, so that's why we're here. And I went and got a master's of public health because I just felt called to serve. I saw so many people in my practice who were an 80-year-old who couldn't pay for medications as well as her rent. And so I thought that working on the larger social issues, working in government, especially local government, could really be a place where I could make a difference. So I got my master's of public health. Unfortunately, when I was at the School of Public Health in Chicago, it was when September 11th occurred, and then with the anthrax attacks afterwards, I was then called by the Cook County Department of Public Health to head up their emergency preparedness efforts. And so I worked for them on communicable disease control. You know, they have 21 hospitals, there's 124 municipalities. I used to meet with 40 police chiefs at a time. And then we, fortunately, I was delighted when this position came open, and they don't come open very often. My predecessor was here for 26 years, so I had worked with Skokie on tobacco issues, and I was really impressed with how the village ran their meetings and coordinated the effort to become the first smoke-free municipality in Illinois, among other firsts for the village. So I've been delighted to be here. I've been here for 11 years. A month after I started, we had H1N1, and I'm sure many of you have heard that story. I had been worrying about 3 million people in 124 municipalities, so then now I was focused on one, and we were able to get 40,000 doses of vaccine and get that out. So when I still have essentially the same team that we had then back in 2009. But anyway, it's really been an honor to serve with all of you, and I've been delighted to be here serving this as a great community. So,
Well, just to tell a story, when Lowell Huckleberry retired, as you mentioned, after 26 years, our then village manager, Al Rigoni, came down and had a piece of paper in his hand and said, "Mayor, you won't believe it. A particular person has applied to be Lowell's successor." And I said, "Oh, who is that?" And he said, "Dr. Catherine Kennard." And I said, "Are you sure she's applying?" And he said, yes, yes. I know she is. This is the application. I said, "Well, hire her now." And he looked at me and says, "Oh, I did that already."
thank you, Mayor. You're very kind.
Your reputation preceded you. It was a pleasure when I worked for my former boss. I learned from members of the county board about you, and we are grateful, and we're very fortunate to have you. And I will now, instead of calling you Dr. Kennard, I'll just call you Commander.
Oh, good.
I don't know,
Thank you.
or Commander Doctor, maybe that, but no, thank you very much for everything.
Thank you.
We do have a motion. Is there anybody who wishes to address the resolution? Yes. If you don't mind.
My question is simply, can you maybe share with us some of the efforts statewide or even locally that may be happening with, I know the testing is not in place yet, but the infrastructure for the testing,
Yes.
the tents, the drive-throughs, those things, are we working towards getting that infrastructure set? Maybe you could share that, and that might be helpful for the community to understand what we're doing in
Yeah,
that regard.
good question. Excellent question. Thank you. Yes, there, as I'm sure we've all heard, there was some difficulties getting the test kits out initially, but our North Shore University Health System has the test kits and is able to do the testing, and so we are sending people directly over to North Shore. The test has to be provided in an isolation room because the person doing it, you don't want them to become ill, so they have to be garbed up to protect them and to collect that specimen. But also Quest Laboratories and LabCorp and multiple other hospital systems are going to be providing that. That was an update we got from the Illinois Department of Public Health. I have been frustrated, as well as many others in the community, just at our inability to get people tested or even to get the test results back in a timely manner has been a challenge. But I do think that bottleneck is going to be opening up quickly, especially because North Shore, as of last Wednesday, has been able to do the test now.
My question more, excuse me, yeah, I think everybody can hear me, is more towards that infrastructure of the in-car testing that you're
Yes.
seeing across the country. Are we working towards that?
I believe that, yes, we are. You know, I suppose it would be better for me to give a report back on that because that's more the responsibility of the healthcare system itself than me. My job, as I've communicated it with my colleagues in healthcare, is to try to keep people from getting sick in the first place, keep people away from each other, put in place all the measures to do that. But then if we identify someone at risk, sending them to that. I don't want to, I can provide, how should I provide information that can go back out to the community in response to this question? I can get
could
more
put it on-
detailed.
we-
You know, I've heard of some hospitals, but I hate to mention here without verifying myself that some of them are already doing the drive-throughs, so.
I think there's a conference call with the State Board of Health coming up. I can't remember if it's tomorrow. It's 3 days a week, if I remember correctly. We just got the information today from the Illinois Municipal
It's either
League.
Tuesday or Wednesday.
And we can ask them on the
Sure.
conference call and then put the information on the website. What we've been doing is on a daily basis, as we get additional information, updating the website.
Right.
So we can do that
Yes.
and supply it to anybody who needs it. I thought the governor at his news conference the other day said that the Department of Health was working with the hospital and
Right.
wasn't Homeland, I guess it was the CDC, to set up regionally areas where you would be able to do it by car.
Right.
But they were
That is in
waiting
the
for the
works.
test kits to
I
come
don't have the
in.
exact details right in front of me, but yes, yes.
Curiosity, that might be helpful for people to
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because
what's being moved in that direction.
it will help us understand the level of disease in the community, because if you don't know what the denominator is, it's hard to tell how lethal it is. If we're just testing the most ill people, it may be that there's more disease out there than what we were originally seeing, and so it wouldn't be as lethal. But yeah, definitely. We'll provide that information as soon as it's available. Sure.
Thank you, Commander.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, if you would, and identify yourself, please.
Rabbi Elie Samber, I'm the principal at Erie County Hebrew Day School, and just really can't pass up on the opportunity to use this to thank Dr. Kennard and the Department of Health and Village of Skokie. We have been leaning on them so heavily over the last number of weeks. I mean, our relationship with them goes prior to COVID-19. But over these last few weeks, I can't even imagine where we would have been without their guidance and the ability for us to navigate, the confidence to be able to share with our parent body to say that we have a line of information of expertise to the level that we are blessed with in Skokie, put everybody at ease and gave us the skill to go through this unprecedented time with confidence. And I just thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Call the roll, please.
Trustee Roberts.
Aye.
Trustee Ulrich.
Aye.
Trustee Bromberg.
Aye.
Trustee Klein.
Aye.
Trustee Greg Keeler.
Aye.
Mayor Van Dusen.
Aye, the motion passes.
I wanted to mention that Orange Theory, just to follow up on the conversation a moment ago, Orange Theory is closed as of tonight. This continues to be an evolving situation, and the village's website is a great resource, as Dr. Kennard said, and so we will continue to provide updates on that website. I did want to mention that in response to the guidelines that were issued today by the Centers for Disease Control, advising the public to avoid gatherings of more than 10 people, to control the COVID-19 pandemic, the Skokie Village Hall will be closed starting tomorrow. It will be open for voting. The voting will not be changed. There's 2 precincts that have their election here tomorrow, and that will continue. The Village Hall employees will be here as well, and so we encourage people to call us to do transactions over the phone, and we'll be able to make appointments in order to provide services as well. And so we want to continue to be able to provide service, but we're cognizant of the extra people that are going to be in the building starting tomorrow, and we want to protect the public's safety. Of course, fire, police, 911, and public services will continue. Those services will remain as they have been. We will continue to update this information every Friday going forward, and so we do encourage people to stay in touch with us and to monitor the information on the village's website. A second item on my agenda this evening is the Illinois Trust participating resolution. The village maintains liquid reserve funds generated predominantly from state of Illinois deposits of local share taxes like sales and income tax. These funds are utilized for regular cash needs of the village, including payroll and voucher payments, and as such must be safe, liquid accounts where the investment objective is first and foremost to maintain principal and provide greatest liquidity. Currently, the funds are deposited in the Illinois Funds, a local government investment pool maintained by the Illinois State Treasurer. The Illinois Trust is a similar local government investment pool intended to serve the short-term needs of municipalities nationwide. The Illinois Trust has received the highest rating by Standards & Poor's. The fund's performance has been slightly better than the Illinois Funds over the past 36 months. Although, as mentioned, the security of the principal and liquidity outweigh the need for high returns. In order to diversify our cash reserves and take advantage of the better interest rate returns, I respectfully request Mayor and Board approval of the resolution be adopted indicating intent to participate in the Illinois Trust.
A motion on the resolution as recommended by our village manager is in order. Trustee Ulrich, seconded by Trustee Bromberg. Are there any comments or questions on the resolution? If not, call the roll, please.
Trustee Roberts.
Aye.
Trustee Ulrich.
Aye.
Trustee Bromberg.
Aye.
Trustee Klein.
Aye.
Trustee Greg Keeler.
Aye.
Mayor Van Dusen.
Aye, the motion passes.
Items C, D, and E were approved as tonight's consent agenda, and that completes my report.
Thank you. Next item is report of our Corporation Counsel, Michael Lorge.
Thank you, Mayor, trustees. Good evening, everyone. Item A on my report for tonight was adopted as part of the consent agenda at the beginning of this evening's meeting, and therefore was accepted, and that would conclude my report for this evening.
Thank you. Next item is Plan Commission. We have 3 cases. Matt Brandwine with our chairman, Paul Luke. And I Would like to acknowledge, with us also this evening is Mark Gushan, counsel for Erie Crown. Welcome, Mr. Chairman.
Mayor, good evening, and members of the board.
With green tie.
Yes, well, St. Patrick's Day. I bring to you 4 cases tonight. Excuse me, 3 cases. Case 2020-03P is a zoning map amendment at 77 Frontage Road. Case number 2020-04P is a subdivision also at 7770 Frontage Road. And case 2020-06P, site plan approval at 7787 Grosse Pointe Road. There was another related case, which is a parking determination. That case number was 2020-05P, and the Plan Commission was the final hearing authority on that case, and the parking determination is reflected in the site plan approval. In these cases, which we heard on March 5th, involves a request for a zoning map amendment, subdivision, and a site plan approval for a subject property that is greater than 1 acre in site. The petitioner is proposing to rezone the subject property from an M1 office assembly industry to R2 single family in order to convert the existing office building into an elementary, junior high, and daycare center. Excuse me, which are the pre-nursery and which has pre-nursery and nursery programs, and a gymnasium. At the meeting, the Plan Commission inquired about traffic impact analysis and parking study. The gymnasium will have a maximum capacity of 865 seats based on the 289 parking spaces provided on site, and which is one space for 3 seats. Vehicles will be restricted with gates at each of the curb cuts, which include 1 on Grosse Pointe Road and 2 on Frontage Road. Grosse Pointe access will be the main entrance for the school, while 1 Frontage Road curb cut will be a secondary access and the other is a service entrance. Gates will be open in the morning for drop-off and pickup times. The applicant explained that the construction will take about 18 months. The applicant also provided elevations showing the building signage. At the meeting, 2 interested parties spoke against the proposal, each representing different corporations which were located in the area. They had their complaints about the nearness of a school to industrial site uses, the impact of residential zoning on future development rights, and the impact on property values. 2 people did come who spoke in favor of the proposal by citing the importance of the school in the community. The Plan Commission recommends by a vote of 8 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 absent that the petitioner's request be approved. Now, I remind you that on the 3 cases, each case will not be voted on separately.
Okay. Before we take up each one, does anybody have any questions on the project itself? Trustee Sucker?
No questions.
No questions? Trustee Roberts?
You know, what's, I think that this new school is exciting and beautiful, and certainly Erie Crown's been a long-time partner and institution in this community, which I greatly respect, but as an elected official, always, you know, it's a balance. So I read the reports, and I was just curious if maybe someone, maybe petitioner or someone could comment about the other properties in town, since this property will be taken off the tax roll, but there were some comments and statements in the report about the other properties that Erie Crown owns and whether they may be sold or be put back on the tax rolls. So it's as an elected official trying to manage our budget, I'm just interested in if some of those thoughts could be shared.
I think if we ask Mr. Groshar to come up, and he can elaborate on that.
Van Dusen, Board, I'm going to be, if I can, for 1 second, just say something, because that way I'll be forgiven by all the people we told could not be here tonight. We told them not to come. We had 25 to 30 supporters at the last meeting. Sam Meadows, executive director of the schools, if you just hold up your laptop, this is modern technology's best. There are 20 people or 20 homes currently on that laptop watching this because they wanted to be here, and we asked them very strongly not to be. And I will turn into the clerk for the end of the meeting 22 different letters that we have in support of the project from people, primarily Skokie residents or business owners, in support of the project. And I'm going to let Brian talk very quickly about the other properties.
Thank you, Mayor and trustees and village staff. To answer your question, currently RE Crown owns 2 separate properties in Skokie. One at 4600 Main, which is our main campus, which we've been at for a number of years, a number of decades, and then a relatively new piece of property, Nile Center, the old Judea Mitzvah congregation, which we've been at for roughly 3 years. We've worked very, very closely hand in hand with the village on what the disposition should be of those 2 properties. The Judea Mitzvah property and Nile Center, we've worked with the village. They've actually identified a potential user, which would be another non-for-profit, but someone that they felt would be a nice fit in the community. And the historical use of that property has been for a synagogue, and the alternative use is somewhat limited. The Main Street property, we plan to continue to work hand in hand with the village to identify what we all hope to be a for-profit user to put back on the tax rolls. That's certainly our intent, and we certainly hope to continue to work with village staff to help us identify what the best use for that property would be, with the intent of it being a for-profit taxable user.
One other just small piece, because we are practicing social distancing, I don't want you to get the sense that there's a large group in here you don't identify. Could everyone in the room who is here on behalf of this project raise your hand? Thank you. Just so you have a sense, our team is here, our support is here in the room. I didn't want you to think there were other people who might want to speak again about the project. Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions? Trustee Sutko, she's shaking her head. It looks like it's shaking no. First is Plan Commission Case 2020-03P zoning map amendment. A motion is in order. Trustee Ulrich, seconded by Trustee Roberts. Call the roll, please.
Trustee Roberts?
Aye.
Trustee Ulrich?
Aye.
Trustee Bromberg?
Aye.
Trustee Klein?
Aye.
Trustee Gray Keeler?
Aye.
Mayor Van Dusen?
Aye, the motion passes. Next is the Plan Commission Case 2020-04P subdivision. Motion is in order. Trustee Bromberg, seconded by Trustee Gray Keeler. Call the roll, please.
Trustee Roberts?
Aye.
Trustee Sutker?
Aye.
Trustee Ulrich? Trustee Bromberg?
Aye.
Trustee Klein?
Aye.
Trustee Gray Keeler?
Aye.
Mayor Van Dusen?
Aye, the motion passes. And concluding is Plan Commission Case 2020-06P site plan approval. Motion is in order. Trustee Ulrich, seconded by Trustee Roberts. Call the roll, please.
Trustee Roberts?
Aye.
Trustee Ulrich?
Aye.
Trustee Bromberg?
Aye.
Trustee Klein?
Aye.
Trustee Gray Keeler?
Aye.
Mayor Van Dusen?
Aye.
And that concludes my
Trustee
report.
Sucker?
Oh, excuse me.
I just wanted to state again that although the state statute doesn't allow me to vote remotely, I want to show my support for these cases that were just called.
Thank you.
That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I believe I accidentally voted as Edie Sue Sutker, so to clear the record.
The final item on our agenda this evening is... Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Citizens' comment. Is there anybody who wishes to address the village board? With social distancing, thank you very much for being here this evening.
Stay safe.
I believe Trustee Roberts, it's your evening to do the honors.
Make a motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned.
Hey, Edie, good night.
Congratulations.